1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's a quorum because there's only 7 of us, so that's enough. Yeah, to start, it is. Okay, good. Okay, so folks, what we have teed up for tonight is the 2021 vision, missions, and goals. So basically the 2021 goal. And Frank did some homework, so he's going to go through both attachments.
Yeah,
and then, go ahead.
No, excuse me.
Okay. And then from there, I want to talk to you all about a proposal. I have to move the residential review of drawings offline outside of our monthly meetings. Then we want to talk about 2021 tree plantings, spring, fall, PHS, the communication, the proposed flyer, and then the township updates. We just said we're going to table till tomorrow night.
That's only if, yeah, Eileen, if Steve doesn't show for this meeting.
Okay.
He indicated to me that he was not going to show, so.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Anything else that we need to cover this evening?
Our orchard project, Miss Eileen.
Tell me again what the orchard project is. I can't remember. Oh, and I can't.
Finding a park to plant some fruit trees at.
Oh, right. Okay.
If you could sneak 5 minutes of that in, that would be much appreciated.
Okay. Super duper. Let me just take this back and see if I can edit this. Okay, so I'm going to add the orchard project. And then Frank, do you want to start by sharing your desktop? You can pick which file you want to share first.
Can I just share my screen?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep, that'll work.
Oh my God, it worked. Yeah, this is just a little bit of background. You know, I've been on this commission for a year. I've been doing a heck of a lot of learning, talking to you guys. Have had some great conversations about trying to get my head around what we're trying to do. So while I've been home, I've been thinking about the Shade Tree Commission and Radnor, and the first thought, I thought this might be a grounding in terms as we figure out what we want to do in the future, whether it's, you know, our goals or some projects or asking for donations, things like that. Tried to put my head about what's the bigger picture. So first thing I started with, what's going on around us? That's climate change, global warming, greenhouse gases. You know, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to have an impact on this stuff. Then, you know, Matt and I met with some people about this Ready for 100. And that really seems to be a big deal that we have an impact on. And it's, as it says here, it's a commitment to have 100% clean, renewable energy for some point in time. It's taking the form of resolutions. We've hired a consultant to help us in Radnor. It's a brainchild of the Sierra Club. And there's a lot of people committing to this. The school district passed a resolution for 100% clean energy by 2030. Our township said renewable electricity community-wide by 2035 and heating and transportation clean energy by 2050. Lower Marion and Tredyffrin did likewise. So this seems to be about a big deal that's going on around us trying to affect climate change. So then I thought about our township and our tree canopy. You know, we've got 8,800 acres, 13.8 square miles. And according to my last iTree measurement with 1,000 data points, which gives me like a 1.5% standard error, we're about 52% covered by a tree canopy. And that's like 4,600 acres. You know, to put that in perspective, Valley Forge Park is 2,000 acres. So we're living under a lot of trees, which I thought was pretty cool. And as I've talked, you know, John especially, you know, we've got threats, bugs, disease, age, development, traffic, etc. And our township created us in 2013. So I looked at the ordinance and I was trying to get a mission statement out of this, and it was tough. There was a lot of intentions about what we want to do, but it became kind of hard for me to communicate that. So I'm trying to get revved up asking for money. I want to ask someone, hey, give me $1,000 and I can plant a bunch of trees, or $10,000 or 15,000. And I'm afraid the first thing they're going to ask me are, who are you? What does the commission do? What's their purpose in life? How are they going about it? Those sorts of questions. So as a salesperson, I want to be able to say something in like a 30-second story about why the Shade Tree Commission exists, but more importantly, why should they part with their dollars to buy trees for Radnor Township? So that's kind of like why I was trying to distill this ordinance, which is clearly written by an attorney, God bless him, but make it something that we can communicate to someone else. So you'd have to say, what the heck's a tree canopy? So I went and I got some standard definitions off the internet. And the good thing is it says what it is, living under trees and branches and stems, but also the benefits, because people like to give money to something that's going to have some sort of return on investment or some sort of benefit. So I kind of looked that up and I thought that was kind of cool. So then I thought, and I'm getting towards the end here, guys, by maintaining and expanding our tree canopy, we're part of a bigger thing that's going on in Radnor Township and around us. This Ready for 100 is a big deal. And we're going to be part of that because we're going to be responsible for the protection and preservation of our tree canopy, and maybe even possibly expanding the canopy. And John Hausbach, I wrote that before I talked to you, and you depressed me by saying that's going to be hard to do. So it has some benefits that we can communicate to people, because our 52% does remove a lot of carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, ozone, sulfur, and it actually helps our water runoff problems because we have a lot of stormwater, I guess they call them fees, that we're paying. So we're getting a lot of benefit that we could probably communicate to people. This is a redundant slide.
Frank, going back to that previous, right there, is that based on what?
The United States Forest Service, or Department of Agriculture, Forest Service came up with this iTree canopy program.
No. Yeah, I understand that. But is this based on a per tree, or is this based on Radnor's canopy at the current state?
B. This is based on Radnor's canopy at 52%.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
So what we do, and this is 1 year on the commission, we have a replacement formula that kind of takes care of development. In my mind, I think it does a great job with development. And Radnor budgets for new trees to be planted in the right-of-way parks and trails, which is kind of a cool thing. And we're also pursuing grants and donations for additional trees to be planted in the right-of-ways and stuff. And we have a lot of other things going on that we don't affect. People are, isolated in their homes, and they're fixing up their properties, and they're planting trees, and they're doing a lot of good things. So there's a lot of other exogenous, and we have the Radnor Conservancy. There's a lot of other outside organizations that are trying to add to the canopy in Radnor. But this is what kind of like we do. So then I said, and I think I was still on my first scotch here. What else could we do? And maybe should we exist? Should we revisit why we exist, which is a mission vision thing, which I also supplied to Eileen. And should we agree on talking points in order to expand awareness and importance of trees? And I know, Seth and Jenny are working on that. I think it's Jenny, on communications, to our residents and stuff. But just have some 30-second, I'm in a bar, someone says, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm on the Radnor Shade Tree Commission. Oh, what's that? And just have a little networking 30-second story to tell them. And then if they show any modicum of interest, be able to expand that into a 5-minute story, all the way up to the point where would you like to donate some money? That would be kind of cool. So having some talking points all of us can kind of follow, I thought would be kind of a cool thing. And then this third bullet point I got from John, he goes, why don't we just, say, hey, we want to plant 1,000 trees over the next 4 years. And we'll do it either through township money, donations, grants, whatever. Why don't we just stick that out there? So if I went to somebody for money, I could say, hey, we've got this goal of 1,000 trees. Would you like to help? And maybe they'd, pay enough for 100 trees, and that'd be cool. And then the last thing, which kind of bugs me a little bit, and this is personal, we don't have anything to maintain our existing trees, pruning, treating for disease. It's just something I think, if the township wasn't buying trees, if I could get enough money that we could get all our trees, new trees through donations, it would be cool if the township could reallocate money to maintaining trees. But, John told me the story about how expensive coming up with that capability in the township would be. So that might be a pie in the sky type thing. So anyway, that's kind of like, pandemic thinking. And then I thought of this thing, and this is the consultant in me. And I tried to digest a story. Why do we exist? We exist to preserve and protect Radnor's tree canopy. What's our vision? What do we want to do? What do we want to have happen in 5 years? We'd like to maintain or grow our tree canopy by adding trees, maintaining existing trees, removing hazardous and dead trees. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's really cool. How would you go about doing that? And this is a bunch of things we're doing. We're measuring the canopy, we're taking inventories, we're maintaining the ordinances, we review developer and resident plans. So we're doing a lot. We do have a strategy that would fulfill that vision of maintaining our canopy. And then how do we measure it? Because someone would say, like, were you successful or not? And you'd like to be able to say, well, yeah, we were successful. And they'd say, why? And we'll say, well, we increased our canopy to 60%. Or we added 1,000 trees. Or we managed development through a replacement formula that's been, pretty darn successful. We've got more trees growing than we're taking down. Yeah, we've removed, 150 hazardous trees. Yeah, we're taking care of the bad ones. And then hopefully we'd be able to say we're maintaining existing trees. So those are our metrics. That's how we know whether we're successful or not. And then you get into what are you doing in the near term? And in the near term, we have our 2021 goals. We're going to implement a master street tree charter. We're going to update the ordinances. We're going to manage our fund. We're going to partner with key stakeholders. And I'm thinking, Eileen, what you did with the Wayne Business Association. So anyway, those are the things we'd be doing in kind of a short term. And as my daughter said, Dad, shut up. So that's kind of all I had as to, what I
Great
learned.
great job, Frank. Excellent job.
Yeah,
I agree. And hey guys, sorry I joined late.
Hey, Seth.
Beth.
The tech guy having Zoom problems.
There is a God.
The shoemaker with no shoes.
No, I like, Frank, I like your idea of, especially if now that we've kind of, we have a well-oiled machine running over the past couple of years under Eileen's stewardship, having that baseline and going beyond and being able to do more and more and more and having that elevator pitch, to get grant money, to get donations, I think is a great thing to have and a great way of thinking to start going down the travels with. So I think this is good.
Ginny, what's your thoughts about cold calling and door knocking for money? I mean, we have a lot of people in the township that love our trees. And I mean, I can think of 20 people right now that I could call and probably get money from Radnor for Radnor's, tree fund. I mean, what's your thought on cold calling and door knocking?
I guess my first reaction would be manpower to do so. But I also want to say that you're absolutely right. I have so many enthusiastic comments back about wanting to preserve and help the tree canopy in Radnor, and just everybody is just so complimentary of what we're doing all the time. So I think you're right, John, that we probably could drum up, a fair amount of donations. I guess, well, especially cold calling now with COVID, but yeah, I mean, door to door with COVID, but Are you?
What about, you know, the second part of that, not to cut you short, Ginny. I mean, we'll banter back and forth all night, but what about creating some sort of like postcard that they fill out, can attach a check to, and we have a already pre-stamped return envelope that they can make a donation from? I mean, I know 20 people I would send it to right away that would send money into us. You know, what are your thoughts on that? What's everybody's thoughts on that? I mean, sending it out, getting it in front of their face, they're home, they're, you know, they're doing stuff, they want to commit. I mean, I think we would get a lot of return on that.
I would agree with that. And I don't think that's a real expensive thing to put together at all. Just a self-mailer postcard. I don't even, I mean, we already have logos. I mean, it's just a matter of getting typeset.
Yeah, I mean, and
that internally.
so, well, part of the agenda tonight is to review, we have the flyer, trifold flyer that we have put together, and I got pricing from Mainline Print to send it out and everything. So, but I guess that's a good point. We never really, we were so focused on giving away trees that we never really thought of collecting money to plant more trees. So I think we could probably make some revisions to this thing.
I mean, Frank's key thing, we have a goal, aspirational goal of 1,000 trees. You know, let's harp on that. You know, here's our 1,000 trees. You know, whether or not we are going to follow that suit, but that's our goal. It's a vision. You know, that's a selling point.
It is, and I don't know if others have gotten this, but the Conservancy once a year sends out and, you know, requesting for donations, which, you know, if we do that, you know, there's the, you know, obviously they kind of form theirs into a membership, right? They coin it as a membership with benefits. So if we spun it that way, where, you know, maybe you're not a Shade Tree Commission member, but
advocate,
right?
Advocate.
I like it. And then here's the benefits, right? But I do think that, you know, because we can't say in the same breath, hey, give us money, and then, hey, we're going to give it away back to other residents for trees. I think we need to probably, those defined projects that we're talking about, you know, replanting parks, the Wayne Business Association, kind of spin it that way when we're asking for donations.
That we need to get our communication flyer out first, so we do educate everybody first, and then follow up with a very targeted postcard asking for a donation.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking of it, I think it probably wouldn't make sense to send, you know, combine all of that messaging into one thing. I think two is probably makes the most sense, but we have to consider
it'll get lost.
the cost of
I
doing
don't
that
know.
too.
I mean,
It's not, it doesn't seem to be a big ask. If we're doing 250 trees a year, that's like $15,000, $16,000.
I think I kind of have a couple thoughts.
$600 a tree.
Yeah. So if we ask for money, can we do that? We're not a nonprofit. We're basically asking people to give money to Radnor Township, where we all pay taxes into. So we would just kind of have to figure that out.
Yep.
And then the 1,000 trees, I love the idea of having an aspirational goal. I think that's great. And it would just be then, where do we find homes for these? Because we sometimes struggle to find homes for the 150 trees that we had last year. And this would be 250 trees, let's say. So it's just, we'd have to give that some thought.
So, and I kind of have a half-ass answer for that. So people that are donating, just say it's Valley Forge Military Academy. You know, that 1,000, that we don't care where the trees are going as long as they're staying within the lovelihood of Radnor. So if Valley Forge donates $2,000, they have the option in this little postcard to check off that they want the trees planted on their property. So it's no different than the fall planting we do, except for it's just at a higher level where, you know, the money is going to be totally provided by the consumer. So if Valley Forge wants 6 trees, they can donate the $600 per tree, $3,600. That goes to pay for the tree, their delivery, the labor, the watering, fertilization, and mulch. and they can check mark that they request to have the trees planted on their property. If not, they can check a mark, place it elsewhere on the township. So we can capture a lot of those bare areas that they have already existing on their property by capturing this 1,000 tree canopy goal. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, so it could be like buy a tree, and the donation could even be something like $100 or $500 a tree, and you're basically either having the tree planted on your yard or you're donating it into a fund, and it will be planted somewhere in Radnor.
Correct, but it would have to capture the total cost of the tree,
Right.
so that we can go from A to B, having the tree ordered, planted professionally, and monitored professionally.
I think that's a big ask though, John, to ask people to donate $600. I mean, I sort of saw this more as a kitty being established, and, you know, all the donations would be totaled or collected together, and then however much money we got, we
Well,
would
you're right, Ginny, but the way I guess what I'm thinking is I'm looking at the higher level corporations, you know, that have the money to spend that $600. I mean, we start at that level. So maybe we have like a 3-package deal. You know, I know guys that are developers that have an office right above Starbucks. Okay, they don't do any development in Radnor, but they live in Radnor, offices in Radnor. And those guys have told me, hey, send me something over. We'll donate $5,000 tomorrow. They've said that to me. Okay, so as soon as I get this postcard, when we get it printed from Mainline, I'm going to go to Starbucks, get my cappuccino, and I'm walking right upstairs to drop that one off. So, I mean, they're the people that I'm asking the $600 for. Penn Medicine, Valley Forge, colleges, big office complex.
Yeah, so let's.
Yeah, that's true.
I can
So maybe-
research this more, but Radnor High School, I think parents donate money for theater, for certain types of club sports or clubs, and it goes into a kitty. The reason I know this, there was a scandal about it, which of course caught my interest. But we could do that using the kitty approach, and at the same time also give people advertising bragging right credits if, you know, Valley Forge Military Academy planted a tree on their property. And Eileen, I'm sorry, I spoke over you.
That's okay. Let's just assume somehow we come up with the money. Grants, township, people donating. So do we want to set the aspirational goal of 1,000 trees planted? And if so, where do we put 250 trees a year? And the one thing is, I mean, we could be flexible. They all don't have to be large trees. Like the Conservancy gave away, I think, 500 trees this past, you know, in 2020, and they were, you know, the smaller trees. But could we find a home for 250 a year?
Is the right of way in play here?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's lots of bare spots through the right of ways.
Right, but can we, like, we struggled in planting 150 in 2020. So can we find homes for, and that was with the WBA taking up 60 of them.
Right,
So the
but I'm
WBA
saying,
goes away.
right, but if we could plant in the right of way, we would not have to get approval from neighbors.
But Matt, how is that different than what we're doing currently?
I don't, are we doing a lot of right of way planning? I mean, aside from the center of Wayne?
We do right of way, but we ask for, like in Garrett Hill, we ask for permission. So we don't just plant a tree, even if it's in the right of way, we look to get the homeowner's approval, buy-in.
Well, aren't there a lot of right of ways though, Matt, that don't have residents
Yeah.
adjacent to them, right?
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think Frank and I tried to bend over backwards for Garrett Hill, but I think we could plant trees in Garrett Hill without, I think there are areas in Garrett Hill where we could just plant trees. Well, you know, the park there, we put a bunch of trees in. And, you know, John asked me to go over and place the trees. And it was Tunnel Park. I mean, that wasn't a public process. It was like the Shade Tree Commission decided where they're going to put these trees in the park. And there were like, you know, there are homes next to that park. I think it might be a mistake to always think we need permission.
Yeah, I think,
especially in areas where they're tree light.
yeah, so I think it was New York City or Philadelphia. They had plant the goal of 1 million trees. I know New York had that, and then I think Philly did something similar. And in New York, they did not ask permission. They just, they planted the tree. There was an open spot in the sidewalk. The tree went in, but that was one of their learnings. They said they did have some homeowners that were not pleased, but maybe instead of asking permission, we simply inform the homeowner.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, the Shade Tree Commission, traditionally, the way it worked in Radnor, when I'm going back 20 some years, but the Board of Commissioners would decide what trees went where in their wards.
Okay.
It wasn't, so I don't think they were asking neighbors if they wanted a tree in the health strip or not. They just put them in.
Okay. So I guess, like, to start off with, do we want to have an aspirational goal? And if so, is 1,000 trees in 4 years, is that the right goal?
Hey, John, where'd you get that number? I think we pulled it out of the air.
Yeah, and that's totally okay.
And it sounded round, and it sounded nice, and it
It
sounded
does.
big.
It does. It does. I agree. My only
To be
concern,
realistic, though, we don't want to fail.
yeah, it's just exactly, Jenny. It's just trying to execute against it, because realistically, we planted 70, let's say 70 and about 24, about 94 trees. So we would have to do 2.5 times that per year.
We would have to have a different approach, I think.
Yeah, and we
On
would.
my street, we would have to approach the neighbors and instead of saying, we're going to plant a tree, do you have any problem with that?
Well, that's still asking, Frank, because they're going to
But
say
it's asking a different way.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the other, if I could just add this as another alternative. I was at Saunders Preserve in Lower Marion last weekend, and they had a reforestation project going on, which I thought was, wow. Not only are we 52% covered in canopy, but we're 22% meadows or grass. Now some of it's golf courses, which, you wouldn't be planting on, but I wonder if there's areas that we could actually designate as reforestation areas.
That's an interesting concept. That whole corner there that used to be our Johnson is a huge, huge open field. Where I'm talking about, Frank?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that other place on Sproul Road where we have those 24 dead ash trees, that could be a reforestation project.
Yeah, and how about that whole hill where it got stripped of all the trees right there as you come off the 476 ramp? I don't know what's going on with there, but.
So I can give you 2 insights on that. So Frank, along Conestoga where those 25 ash trees are coming down, I gave the township the order of native trees to be planted in there. So we are doing a forestry project. We're doing overstory trees along with understory trees to have some texture. For the 476 project, PennDOT does not want any trees planted at all. They don't want 0. So that area has been seeded with wildflowers. There's been some bluebird boxes put up there, some native cool season grasses for nesting, but they do not at any time want any trees. And we tried very hard.
John, that drives me crazy. What's their reason?
That one reason, liability. So they took advantage of a situation. They knew that, we removed the trees without authorization, and their penalty was, well, we're just going to keep it meadow because that's the way they want to roll. And they're rolling that out on a lot of cases. You can see on 476, if you look very closely, slowly but surely, every tree is being condemned along 476.
I'm sorry.
Hey, guys.
Same thing. We don't want liability either. That stuff falling on the
James.
tracks and everything. I mean, it's common practice.
Yeah. So guys, let's see if we can move along here. Frank, I thought you had something drafted that basically had a mission, vision, and goals.
That's what's up on the screen now that I'm sharing.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. I thought there
It
was
might
something
have, Frank, it might have frozen. We're on and finally think about what else can be done slide.
Oh, how
Right.
about now?
Nothing. Try and stop share, reshare.
Okay.
I think that is it. I think that's your last slide.
You don't see that, huh?
We do. The last slide says, and finally think about what else can be done. Revisit why we exist, mission, vision, thing. But I thought you had sent another file at one time.
I did, and I'm looking at it right now. Which is
Oh,
obviously
yeah.
doing you no good,
Yeah.
but
Yep. Yeah, that's right. We don't see it. Okay.
get rid of this. So here we are. I should be able to share. I should be able to share that. How about now?
Yep.
Yes, we got it.
Gott sei Dank.
Uh-huh.
And again, this was me shooting from the hip. I mean, this is,
Mhm.
you know,
Why are we saying have maintained? Wouldn't we want to say our vision is to maintain and or grow?
we can. This would be at the end of the 5 years, we'd be able to say we've maintained 52%.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're at 5 years from
It's just-
now.
But it can be more future oriented, of course.
Yeah, it would be identifying hazardous and dead trees to be removed because we don't remove them. That would be public works. But
Oh, I thought they were one of our arms.
no. Mm-mm.
I guess my suggestion would be, what did we do this year, Eileen? 96, you said, trees?
No, we did.
That we put in between
We did.
the WBA and
We
the
did about
residents?
60 in the WBA. I'll just use round numbers. 60 in the WBA, 7
Yeah.
residents, and about 24 in PHS. So about 150.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, could we maybe double that? That gets us to, 300. I don't know. That's actually more than we really need. So if we're trying to do 1,000, what do we say in 4 years? That's only 250 a year. So we might be able to do that, Eileen. It's only
You
100
won't have the
more.
WBA
Especially if
though.
we can-
Like you won't, they took a bolus of 60
Right,
trees. So that's where
right.
you have to kind of assume we
Yeah.
planted about 100 trees, 90 something.
Okay.
What if we formed a little, subcommittee whose sole purpose was to identify places to put trees? Maybe
It's
an
places, and then you
offshoot,
need,
an offshoot of Matt's study.
right. Yeah, I think that would be great. And the biggest thing is you need people to say yes. I've gone door to door and people, there are more no's than yeses. So,
What, to
no,
donate,
to
you mean?
plant a tree, to accept a free tree.
Yeah.
So to me, we'd have to come up with a different way to find locations for trees.
So we don't think between the parks and the right of way, we could find room for 200 trees every year.
I think the parks would be the big opportunity because we own the parks, we control them. That would be the easiest. The residents, I think it's more so with storms and wires coming down, people get tentative, and we see that. Like, look at how people put more small trees than they do large trees.
Yeah.
So we see that.
The Garrett Hill people are worried about sidewalks heaving,
Yeah.
birds dropping on their cars, branches dropping on their cars. In conversations with Sean, he goes, "It's amazing,
Yeah.
how they just
Mhm.
resist this."
Right.
I want,
Well, I mean, as Matt says, there's a lot of right of way that doesn't butt up against residents, so.
There's also an opportunity to plant trees that don't interfere with wires and don't drop, you know, debris. And
Mhm.
so this isn't just about large shade trees.
I'm wondering whether we could have a reforestation process at some of the new homes on the old Ardrosin estate. You know, because they've got field upon field upon field.
Yeah, you're right, there's very few trees over there.
And also the willows,
Mhm.
you know, we could plant trees there. Hare Park, you know, they've got fields like maybe not reforest the whole field, but maybe encroach on the field by just building up the perimeter, just kind of like get further and further, make it smaller and smaller.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Frank, because Willis is trying to get arboretum status anyway.
And maybe on our postcard idea, we have, rather than donating money, you donate your land so we can plant trees,
Oh, that'd be great.
you know? Have
Yeah,
a checkbox that says, are you willing to take trees? Because we need spaces every year.
yeah,
As long as
Yeah,
they don't
maybe
expect a
both.
tax break.
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah, that's original.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
It's a
game
good
for like,
idea, Frank.
yeah. We could set an aggressive goal and then we could figure out what becomes limiting. If money is limiting, then we buy smaller trees. You know, maybe we have some big ones, but we buy some small ones. If land becomes limiting, then we go to the parks. You know, maybe we try and approach it that way. We set the number and then we figure out how are we going to get there.
I like your idea, Frank, of having a couple of people identify, yeah, some areas where the trees could be planted.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that will be definitely needed.
You know, we could even, what if we knocked on doors at the old Ardrosin estate? There's only about 5 of them because the estates are so big out there right now. And say, you know, we'd like to reforest this hill and would like you to pay for it. And wouldn't that be heaven?
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that, Frank.
I'm going to hear that Seth lives there or Matt lives there.
Nah.
Okay, so moving forward, I would say, because the goals look pretty much like the goals that we had from before, so that looks okay. The metrics look like what, you know, somewhat what we already have maintained the existing tree canopy. The only thing we'd have to get rid of, remove hazardous trees each month. It could just be identify the hazardous trees for removal.
I think, you know, we're getting up on the 1,000 tree number, but I think, you know, we have the opportunity every year to reevaluate, right? So if come next year we find 250 a year to be impossible, we can revise our number. But until then, we can, you know, make that our goal.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay. And then under strategy, I would just say add trees via annual plantings. Or maybe that's fine, and we can just determine whether it's spring or fall. It's unlikely that we would have both.
Right.
Based on previous conversations, because we did one year have both and it's double the effort, and we decided it's easier just to have one planting, just pick one season. We could alternate. It doesn't always have to be fall. It could sometimes be spring, but it's just easier if it's one planting. Yeah.
I like the comment from the last meeting that, you know, if we do it that way, we can get better stock or have more access to good stock.
Right. Like if we alternate fall one year, spring another year, right,
Yeah.
for the variety. Yep.
Oh, it
And
was that.
also, Frank,
plus-
sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, with Frank's idea, if there was a subcommittee that came together, say in 2021, you identify areas that need it, then you could easily plan in spring for those areas and still do a giveaway in the fall some years. Because you don't have to look for places. February, you put together the contract, send it out, and you have the planting done in spring to those areas, or in the fall, whichever that falls in.
I mean, we're almost too late now to do anything for spring, even if we do put it like in the parks or right away, right?
I think so. I think so. I would target the fall. I think the spring is,
Yeah.
There,
But just getting back to that, our conversation last meeting, I think, John, you can throw in some more details here, but essentially if we put in our, and James, you too, but if we put in our order for, let's say 90 trees today for the fall, we're going to have a better selection than what we had last year, just because, we'll be on the books and in line versus waiting for all the registrants to come in and then placing the bid out. So I think that's what we were
Yeah.
getting at during that meeting.
yeah. And one thing on that, budget wise, we have less money than what we have had in previous years.
Oh, is that
So,
right?
yeah, because the township pulled in less money during 2020 because of COVID. So, and that's why they didn't do budget requests last year. So everybody, I think, kind of got the bare minimum. So when I talked to the controller, and what I surmised out of it is all in, we have $60,000. That includes, it assumes that Chanticleer would give a donation of about 20,000. So actually I have 65,000 is what we could expect to spend in 2021. If we don't get the Chanticleer donation, then it would be 45.
what about monies left over from the fall planting?
That is with money left over.
There was like 20 grand left over.
We're assuming that there's 40 grand left over, and that the township does a $5,000 transfer, which is a lot less than normal, and that we get 20 from Chanticleer, and that's how we get to 65. As a comparison, the fall planting we did last year by all seasons was probably about $80,000.
So this might be a good year to go around and ask for money, sounds like.
Well, that was my point,
Grant.
Eileen. It was 82 or 88,000. That's what the contract was for, but that was for 130 or 40 trees, and only
Mhm.
3/4 of that was planted. So did the town pay for all the other trees
We
that were
planted
never planted?
around 70 residential trees and about 60 trees in the WBA. So we planted slightly over 130 trees.
And okay, I think it was 178 was the contract.
Okay, this is what I have from Bob Tate, the controller. That the all seasons, the money wasn't yet deducted, but they were saving about 80,000. So in either way, good point. We can follow up on what the actual is.
Yeah, because there was, I
Yeah, I
have the
understand.
contract, there was 178 trees. I mean, I don't know why the township would pay for 50 trees that were never planted, or 40 trees,
Yeah.
if that's correct.
Mhm. I'm just making a note here. Okay, I'll reach out to Bob Tate and I'll get the actual amount. Okay. So are there any other changes that we're looking at here? Other than we'd have to identify the number of trees we want to plant per year.
I came in here late, Eileen, so I just missed the end of the 476 part, and I apologize for that. And I know John said that they don't want any trees. Is there any way we could talk to the representative?
Didn't hear you, James. Who didn't want any trees, James?
476.
476.
Oh, yes,
No, that's
yep.
funny. Hey, guys, I really think we need to take that offline. I think we're just going to end up beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
So James, I would talk to John offline or talk to Steve Norsini offline. And if you want to have a conversation with Pico, that's great.
I don't know.
But I think we as a committee can't spend any more time talking about what Pico will or won't do.
PennDOT.
PennDOT, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, whatever you want.
yeah, no, I think that needs to go offline. Okay, so how many trees do we want to plant a year? What's our metric? Do we want a metric? And if so, what is it?
Why don't we call it our stretch goal? for some
Fine.
work.
Yep.
And I'm okay with 1,000 over 4 years. Because I agree with Seth, we can adjust it.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
we're setting our own goals.
Yep. I'm okay with that, providing someone needs to come up with a strategy of how we're going to get there, a plan to get there. Because right now, between the money, the grants, and the people and the locations, there's no path to get there. So is there somebody that would be willing to, figure that puzzle out?
I would be glad to do it with Matt and John.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm totally in because because frankly, it's been now 3 years since I've did the survey, believe it or not. And it's getting old in the tooth.
Mhm.
And a lot of trees are gone that are in the survey. So
Yeah.
I sort of feel like we have to start a little bit survey renewal going on anyway. And that can be part of looking for, the bare spots.
Okay. I'm game. I can buy into 1,000 over 4 years.
And then with the caveat that we'd come up with a plan as to where to put them.
Yeah. Exactly. Where to put them and how to get the funding.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
the
that would
two
be my
together.
reservation. How are we going to fund them?
Yeah.
I don't have a concern about finding locations. I do have a concern, especially during this COVID environment. Everybody is struggling financially in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
How are we going to fund that many?
I think it's going to be chicken and egg type thing. If we found a place to plant them,
Mhm.
it would be a reason for people to give us money, is my thinking. If we had the willows, we're going to plant 100 trees at the willows. If you give us X money, your money will go to be planting trees at the willows, which is good.
Right. And on the postcard idea, we could say, hey, how much money do you want to donate? And here's some places where, you can pick to put them. That would be great.
Is there a need for trees along these TAP programs that, we're spending money on right now?
I think
They're getting replanted.
yeah, that's baked into their budget, so they're already covered.
Okay, we can take credit, but we don't have to fund it.
And I don't think, they're replanting a ton, and I don't know that there would be much room to plant many more, but I could be wrong. I don't know. John, what do you think?
Say the last part of that again, Seth?
They're replanting a lot of trees, and I don't know that there would be much room left to plant anymore.
Oh, no, they're following the ordinance. So,
Right.
they're going to be jam packed, if not more than what was required.
Right.
So John,
Okay. So guys,
are you willing to
we
be on?
need to move forward and make a decision. We're almost an hour into this meeting and we're still on the first agenda topic.
Oh,
So we're going to do this by majority vote. All in favor of 1,000 trees over 4 years with Frank leading up the plan of how it's funded, where the locations are, and the idea that we can modify it next year if it looks like we may not get there. All in favor?
Fine.
Aye.
Go for it. Okay, sold. Okay. So Frank, if you go ahead and finalize this, I can do like a quick edit on it or proofread on it for you if you like.
and that would be the mission goals, that mission vision?
Yeah, that one pager you were just showing. Yep.
Yeah, I'll do that and send it to you.
Okay, super. Okay, thanks, guys. Otherwise, we may be here a long time.
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Exactly. Okay, agenda item number 2. Welcome, Lisa. Okay, so proposal to review residential drawings offline. So a lot of you, I've talked to you about this. It was an idea just to be more lean and efficient. So right now we, as you know, we review our residential drawings and the business drawings in our monthly meeting. And I was thinking, do we really need 7, 8 people reviewing it? Because the ordinance is pretty cut and dry. It isn't really up to us whether we like the aesthetic of the project or not. It's really around, if you're taking around X amount of trees, this is what you replace. Do you have tree protection fencing? Yes or no? What's your egress pattern? So I thought the business ones or the township ones we should still see because they're typically large projects. But for individual residential projects, what do you think about moving it to 1 or 2 people reviewing them offline?
How, I sort of don't have a problem with that at all, Eileen, but how does that, how do we factor in public participation in this? In other words,
I guess that's a good question. I guess
Right.
it would be documented.
Well, wouldn't we still have to take a vote on an approval during an official meeting?
Seth, I thought the same thing. I didn't know what it meant to our ordinance, but when I checked with Steve Norsini, he said, no, we can do this. We can do it
Okay.
offline, because actually where I got the ideas from, Matt and I went to a tree seminar probably 2, 3 years ago now. And that's what Abington does. We just happened to have lunch with the person who's my counterpart there. And they use their meetings to do projects and grants. They don't use their meetings to do enforcement, to do review of drawings. And that's what first gave me the idea. Like, are we really utilizing our time efficiently?
I guess probably the good question to ask ourselves is, why did this start happening? Like, why do we review Radnor Township citizen projects during these meetings? I'm sure there was a reason to do that, right?
Correct.
well, yeah, I mean, folks are required to go before us. The planning commission relies on our expertise because it's just it's checks and, but all these boxes have to be checked. It's always been that way. Different iterations of the shade tree commission set. Some shade tree commissions just did that in Radnor. They didn't do any mission. They didn't do any like broader thinking. It's like,
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is, like, why wouldn't, just as a part of the engineering department's workflow, just approve these offline? I guess it would have to be under the purview of the shade tree commission too.
well, they'd have to rewrite the
Approval.
ordinance.
Right.
I don't think people want to start picking
Well,
away at ordinances.
Eileen, in
all
your
pieces.
specifics of looking at the offline approval capability, did you see anything about, if there's a minimum amount of shade tree commission members that need to do an approval in that capacity?
You mean per our current ordinance?
Right, in your
Okay.
conversations with Steve about saying how it seems like it would be okay to approve offline?
No, he didn't say anything about a minimum. I just suggested, like, would it make, could we have like 1 or 2 people approve it offline? So instead of 7 voices at the table, you have 1 or 2. So you still have your check and balance. You're still making sure that the resident before you is following the ordinance, or that they have guidance on how to get there, if they're not applying it correctly. But it's just a leaner approach, because I'm not sure what the difference is between 7 versus 1 or 2.
Would John Horseback still be reviewing these? I mean, I rely on John's opinion a lot on some cases of reviewing these residential and Matt's input on visual site visits. So, like, for instance, if I was tapped to go do this autonomously on my own, I would not feel comfortable doing that without their input.
Yeah, Jenny, I agree. And that's just it. We have a lot of people on the shade tree committee that don't have tree expertise. Like, so for instance, Claire, when I asked her about this, she said, yeah, that would be great, because my strength and what I bring is the connections. It's not really commenting on drawings and trees. So, yeah, so somebody like I would recommend, like, maybe it's Matt and James look at this every month. And Steve has said that he would work with the drawings
Solicitor.
coming in the door to try and clean them up before they, let's say, would even go to Matt and James.
Right. I mean, like we have a quorum to take a vote for a reason, right? So I feel like there might be some, for the lack of a better term, legal roadblocks there potentially.
So let's say there aren't any legal blocks. Would it make sense?
Can I just say, so certainly just from the Board of Commissioners perspective, and a lot of those smaller things never come to us, but it definitely is helpful to know that if something does come before us, that you all, it's been vetted and, by Shade Tree. And usually the ones that do come before us are the bigger ones. If Matt and James are a smaller group, if we're reviewing them prior, could you guys put them on like a consent agenda kind of situation where, Matt and James have reviewed them, they have their, they've put forth, if they come before you, assume that they've, already dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and then you just put it on a consent agenda. So to Seth's point, then you guys are just voting on them all as a block. Can you do that? I don't exactly know the legalities of consent agenda, but we do that with the Board of Commissioners, things that, the staff is recommending, things that we don't feel. And if someone looks at something, they want to pull it off and they want to talk about it more, like you still have that option. You could do that.
So yeah, we could do that. We do that currently for hazardous trees. So we would just follow the same format.
Yeah.
And I think that would solve a lot of, because sometimes the first time we're all reviewing the plans is during the meeting and we're trying to step through things. I think that would eliminate that. And then that would satisfy the, voting during a meeting and having a quorum. So I like that idea.
I'll make a comment. I'm good either way, but a couple things to keep in mind. I don't know if we would have to change any ordinance to do this, but in 5-10 years, say there's a new commission, they might not feel comfortable doing it with just one or two people if they don't have the experience or expertise, they think. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other one is, don't know if you remember, I think when I first started on the Shade Tree, I think Jenny was there and Matt, we were invited to speak with a solicitor before a meeting. And he did say, and I'm sure everybody, we would look into this, but we were not allowed to make any sort of decisions until a public meeting or something like that. It was this, I'm not sure if it's the sunshine laws or some other Robert's rules or something. So that would be something we should look into, just to make sure that it's able to be done legally.
The nice thing about putting on consent agenda, so the commissioners, when we have our consent agenda, if suppose there was a resident that was concerned about, a neighbor taking down trees and it was on the agenda and they still wanted to speak, they can always pull it off. So for the commissioners, anyone on the board can pull something off, the staff can pull something off. If something has changed and they want to update you and you guys need to kind of re-look at it. And similarly with the public can pull anything off. You could do something like that.
I like it.
And by pull off, Lisa, you mean like bring up for discussion? Is that what pull off means?
Yeah, so we'll say does anyone have anything, like they pull off the consent agenda, then you vote on the consent agenda, the things that are left, and then you take that one piece or two pieces or whatever it is, and you have a separate discussion about them and vote on them separately.
That makes sense. And that's where I would even think, and I'm picking on Matt and James just because they have the most tree expertise, on our committee. But I'm also assuming that if anything was contentious, they would not put it on the consent agenda and instead put it on the regular agenda. But that would require, a judgment call. But for me, I would be comfortable with Matt and James making that judgment call.
I agree with you, Eileen. I think if it was the two of us and we saw a property that was just really poorly done and we didn't like it,
Mhm.
I don't think we would we wouldn't give it our disapproval without the full commission
Mhm.
vetting it, because I think that's unfair to the applicant.
Mhm.
The applicant saying, listen, 2 Shade Tree Commission members decided this.
Uh-huh.
Well, we're the other voices in this contentious issue. So
Yeah.
I think we'd have to be mindful of that.
Okay.
And we
Yeah,
would do that.
Maybe if I can, not to drag this out, because I know Eileen wants to move on, but maybe what we can do is we can set parameters. So anything over, let's say 20 trees being removed on the site, it goes in front of us. Anything 20 and below gets reviewed by myself, Norsini, Matt, and James. I'm just using hypothetical numbers. So
Okay.
large projects requiring 20 trees or more, and say 5 heritage trees comes in front of us. We can set those parameters. That would be a lot easier. So then that gives us a basis that we can pick and choose. Just say for some reason, some controversy comes up and it's, residents are screaming about it. That way we can jump back in the game and bring that in front of us.
It sounds good.
Yeah, I like that.
20 seems like a high number, John.
They were hypothetical.
Okay,
What would you think, Jenny? Like 10, 15?
that's what I was gonna say, Seth.
Yeah, I guess when we're thinking like resident properties, I mean, 10's a lot
Yeah.
of trees to be coming down.
Yep. Okay, so if it's contentious or greater than 10 trees, then the offline committee would bring it to the Shade Tree Committee for discussion.
And we can leave it to commercial or, multi-family dwelling developments. Anything that's maybe like a single dwelling, putting in a pool, an addition, none of those will ever come in front of us. Anything that is large capacity per se, and we can spin it any way we want.
Yeah, I made it as just residential, thinking anything that's a township or a business or a developer would come to us. What would come the way it does currently.
Yep.
Be an item on the agenda.
Yeah, and something like Trianon has to go before the full Shade Tree Commission.
Correct. That's a big deal. So yeah, all the single dwellings that are just, mom and pop additions, pools, patios, new driveways, they're diminished off our list. And then anything larger comes in front of us. So that's a good happy medium that to make sure that we can still be in the game at any time, and that it also reduces, because we get a lot of pools. I just did a quick count. In the last 9 meetings, we've had over 50 pools.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pools.
Yeah, that is a lot. It's the COVID pool. Everybody's staying home.
Including grading permits too, Eileen.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Ginny. The grading permits now would all automatically go offline.
That grade like that is definitely not worth our time.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, offline committee. I've kind of volunteered Matt and James. I don't know, are you two willing to do it? Do we need 2 people, 1 person? Anybody else want to be on it and want to volunteer? Let me just open it up completely.
A minimum of 2.
A minimum of 2, got it, for a check and balance.
And I still plan to do all the site visits before the meeting. So
Okay,
I guess I am sort of there.
okay, good.
Yeah. I'm good. I'm good to do that.
And I'm on Amazon right now ordering James a tree identification book, so he'll be good to go for that first meeting.
Oh,
Thanks,
that was-
John. I need.
That was tough. Wow.
He's not too far off, though. He's pretty good.
I'm kidding. I'm only laughing because I love him.
No. As long as I don't have to work with John, I'm fine. Yeah, sure.
Okay, got it. Okay,
Yeah, I don't know if I'll make all the site visits with Matt or anything, but I do look at them online when Trish sends out the plans. So I will review and continue to while I'm here.
Perfect.
And James, if you need the hard copy, I still get the big plans, so I'd be willing to share this with you.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
yeah, and then guys, we could probably develop this offline, but we need some type of process.
Yep.
So Matt looks at it, James looks at it. How do you combine your comments together? Are they then sent to Steve and then the resident? Is there do we stay with the monthly cadence and, hey, it's fine if you return it in a week, that's great, you beat the, monthly cadence.
So Eileen, does it make sense for just process control at the meeting? We're not going to be reviewing these. The applicant won't be in front of us, but either James or Matt just does a 5-minute rundown, just like we do at the hazard trees, and says, 101 Jones Way, approved, not approved, has to come back in front of us, not getting into the weeds or the details, just gives a high level overview of each project, 3 seconds a piece, goes down just like we do the hazard trees. And then at that time, Eileen, Trish, she'll be taking notes. She can, let the applicant know whether it was approved or disapproved based on the theory that James and Matt provide.
Oh, yeah, that would work pretty well, actually. Right, so I understand what you're saying. They go ahead and do the review just like they normally would. It automatically goes on the agenda as a consent item. They give a quick overview, and then we formally approve as a committee at the monthly meeting.
Correct. So we're still following our protocol.
That works for me.
Yep.
Does that work for everybody else?
Yeah, as long as if there's something that we think there would be a problem with, that the applicant should be aware of that prior to the meeting. So they can defend their plans if they want to. That'd be my only request.
That makes sense. I'm just making notes here.
And to make sure it's legal, that me and Matt do discuss this offline.
Yeah, I'll
and
confirm.
what we would decide.
Yep. Or what happens is you actually now are doing a recommendation to the Shade Tree Committee, and then we would vote on it in our monthly meeting.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, that's great. So
as long as it's all legal and fair, and
yep.
We've had somebody before, or I have say something in our past members accuse me of something. So
okay, we'll make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you.
We'll keep you clean.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, that's all I had on that topic. Is there anything else? Okay, great. Next one is the 2021 tree plantings. I put my name here, but really this is Ginny and Frank typically leading this up. So maybe we do the spring versus fall tree planting. Ginny, if you want to tee up that conversation. I think we kind of already made some headway tonight.
Well, I think we already assume now that we're going to have to do it in the fall because we're too late for spring this year. But I think we should try and aim to do a spring one next year, so that we are sort of rotating between fall and spring. I think that was an important lesson learned, that we need to go ahead and get our RFP together much earlier, like even Seth was saying now, and that would have to be based on budget numbers, and then we would close it out once the registration met the budget numbers. So I think we also learned that we don't need to spend money, which is also good considering our limited budget, on the newspaper ad. We got absolutely no leads from the newspaper ad. And Frank, we didn't get any leads from all those posters that we put up all over the neighborhood. So that will save us schlepping around and posting the posters. I mean, not that we wouldn't still, but we didn't get any leads from them.
All that
Everything
chicken
from
pot pie I bought was unnecessary.
That's right. So we could really just go with Molly's efforts and social media. That's where all the leads came from. So we don't really have to reinvent the wheel with our flyer other than updating it. But I guess, Eileen, the next step would be to determine how much of our budget we want to allocate to do the planning.
Yes, that is a good question. So I'll take the action item to talk to Bob Tate and confirm how much is actually left in the budget, assuming the all seasons invoice now has come in and been paid.
And how do we confirm if we're going to get the Chanticleer
It doesn't usually come
donation?
until late in the year, like November or December. So it could be that we run without it. And then we take what comes in, let's say November, December, and we roll that into the spring planting for 2022.
Okay, that's a good
Okay.
suggestion then.
Okay. And,
You know, we could maybe this year, again, because of money constraints, offer only the small trees for planting. That would save us money and yet be able to plant more trees.
The only thing is, and John Hosback, I'll need your comments here. I thought you had sent us an article, or I read an article about how, townships have gone to just small trees and it's not good for the canopy because they don't live as long and they don't get to be as big.
Well, that would probably be a good offline topic, Eileen. There's a lot to that. People were
Okay.
talking about using ornamentals for longevity compared to large shade trees because of the management, restricted designated planting areas and all that good stuff. So there's some validity to it, and then there's some BS with it as well. So it was just a general article I want to share of what some other townships are doing.
Okay. So do you have,
It might be just for this year, Eileen, we do the small ones.
yeah, so I guess, John, do you have any comments if we just do all small trees in the fall?
No, I guess I really don't. I mean, I guess my objective is to make sure that we are capturing canopy in some of the hot zones, such as Garrett, and those areas where we're really deficient on shade trees. And then understory planting with the smaller varieties, smaller species, where we have large canopy at some of the homes and stuff like that, where we're already doing replanting.
Well, would we have two separate budgets almost, Eileen? One designated towards the residents and then another budget towards, the right of way, the parks that we would be just doing maybe the shade tree, the large ones.
We could, typically we've used the parks as the overflow, so we could make it one big tree order and then just whatever fills with residents fills, and then what's ever left over goes to the parks.
Okay, so then maybe we do want to offer both.
I would be,
Totally
I
depends
must
on
admit,
money.
I would be more in favor of offering both, but I don't know off the top of my head what the price difference is. I didn't think there was,
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head either. If it's substantial, it makes sense. If it's not,
I thought
doesn't
it
make
was
sense.
small. Like I remember the one year I thought the average was like $5.50 a tree, and I didn't think there was a big difference between small and large. So I would
think-
recommend that we try and do a mix.
Yep. The minor flowering trees are going to be less expensive. It's about $100 in some cases.
Okay, so not a huge amount.
Yeah.
And I think we should keep it simple. Just do one big order and we'll plant for residents where we can, and the overflow will go somewhere else.
Mhm.
Okay, so it'll be driven by whatever budget number you want to come up with, Eileen.
Yep. Yep.
And as soon as we get that number, I'd say we, start the process, get them
Yeah,
ordered, get them on
Yeah.
the books.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And maybe we just do a 50-50 mix of small and large, and when they run out, they run out.
Yeah. I do think we need to be cognizant of our mission, right? To preserve and grow the canopy. So
Right.
I don't think we'd be doing ourselves service by doing all small trees.
Yeah.
I mean, the small trees, just FYI, were far more popular than the large ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason is because people have an overstory canopy already. They just want to, get that layering effect going. So
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it is tough to commit to like a huge, 100-foot tree in
Yeah,
your yard, so I get it.
Yeah.
They're not going to live to see it.
It's true. You plant for the next generation.
Yeah.
speak for yourself, Frank.
Okay. Okay. So, Frank, nice segue to you, my friend. PHS tree grants. What does it look like for 2021?
Since I sent that email, I've had several conversations with Sean. We've got 15 trees coming in April 21st, 22nd, 23rd. They're 15 trees, 10 of are big trees like elms and stuff. And there's a 5 more ornamentals, 15 to 25 foot trees. Plan A is Garrett Hill. We've got some addresses to send letters out to either ask residents or tell residents what we're going to do. Sean is trying to get some additional names, of people he knows within the Garrett Hill area that might be more open to having trees. He's asked for arguments about, parking your new SUV under a tree that's got a dead branch on it and stuff. So we're trying to work through heaving, bird droppings, falling branches, so that he's prepared to talk to the residents, his constituents there. So that's moving along. Made more progress this week than I had in the last month. Plan B, which was 476, that's off the table right now. And then Plan C was our overflow to parks and trails.
Yep. And we can definitely utilize a lot of trees on the 2.2 mile multi-purpose trail. So
Where's the 2.2 mile multi-purpose trail?
starts off Chester Valley Road, and goes all the way to La Maison.
Oh, I didn't know that was the name of it.
Yep.
Okay, the Radnor Trail there.
Yeah, the Radnor Trail. It's
Oh.
called the 2.2. I think technically the 2.2 mile multi-purpose trail, but the Radnor Trail, yes. A lot of trees have come down there. A lot more trees are going to be coming down there.
Okay.
So it's a good area to mitigate through replanting.
We don't need any trees for the extension. That would be covered by the existing budget. A half mile. Yeah, okay.
That's correct.
So I'd like to get letters out this week or next, to the Garrett Hill residents and see if we can, convince people that they want some trees out there.
Or
I've also offered to walk the neighborhood with Sean, just to see what would be a good place, where they have a lot of dirt and it's not narrow.
or Frank, it could be let them register for the small trees, the small flowering trees. Like, would that make a difference?
Yes, it would. According to Sean, it would make a difference, but I only have 5 of those.
Yeah. No, but between our tree planting that we're going to run in the fall, like,
Yeah, absolutely.
They
Absolutely.
could register for them. Okay.
Frank, also utilize the residents. There's one lady that comes to all the meetings. She's spearheading the 100. Lisa, you may know her name. Gray-haired lady.
Sarah Pilling. I'm going to tell her you said that, John. Great.
Sarah Pilling.
Sarah Pilling.
Oh, very nice lady. So she's very involved in the trees. And she knows a lot of people in Garrett Hill area. If you reach out to her, she'll definitely be able to provide some insight. She's a good partner. She loves anything to do with trees.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, Nick, did we talk to her with the Ready for 100?
Yes, yeah, we did, Frank.
Good.
Yep.
I have met her. That's great. Thank you, John. I'll do that tomorrow.
Yep. She'll be able to guide you.
One other thing, Frank, is that every park is having work done by Jimmy's Trees. So we lost 20 in Ordericio, 20 dead ash trees in one spot in Ordericio. So I happen to know because it's out my back window. And Jane and we're putting 7 or 8 trees in ourselves. But that's once the stumps come out, we could look at those areas for trees, because I don't think we ought to put small trees in around stump grinding.
Yeah.
I just think it would be bad for it. But I think a few of our parks are having this pretty major tree removal going on, and those are areas where it just naturally seemed right to replant.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you both.
So I was going to put in a plea for Sawmill Park if you guys need a spot.
Oh.
Sawmill Park. We've lost
Absolutely.
in some of the storms in the past couple of years. So
Yep, that's great, Lisa.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, super. So we've got some good areas listed. Okay, anything else on the tree grants? Okay, Super. Next up is, and this is the last item, is the communication flyer. Seth and Ginny.
All right.
Mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen
Sure.
and we can chat about it.
Everybody knows we met with, gosh, Seth, I'm going to forget her name. Do you remember?
Laura
her name?
Luker,
Thank you.
more than a year
Yeah,
ago
so
now, I guess.
Yeah, this has input from her as well. So we try to circle the wagons and get all thoughts here.
Yeah, so this is, we put this together last year. And this flyer is meant to be, there might be some good language on here, if your elevator pitch, Frank, and I can send this around again. And let me zoom in here.
Boy, Seth, you got that right. That first item is a case statement. It's a really good case statement.
Yeah, some of this language exists from, our page on the Radnor Township website, and some modification. I know Eileen had some feedback that we pulled through recently. So this is meant to be, what is the STC, and what are some of our programs, having a plug for the Radnor Conservancy in here, knowing that they're one of our biggest partners in all of this. So we're talking about, what is the Shade Tree Commission? First and foremost, getting into the shade tree ordinance, satisfying our, let's educate all of the residents regarding what our specifics are, and just boiling it down and making it simple. We all know that our ordinance is quite a few pages, but picking out the most important ones. And then this domain here, radnortrees.com, I'd actually bought that, and that redirects to our page on Radnor Township, just so that, our page on Radnor Township, the URL is pretty long, but so that we, can squat on this domain and do with it what we want to. But for right now, it redirects to our page on Radnor
That's great.
Township.
Yeah, that's super.
Can you
Yeah,
use
nice
that on
work.
the tree planting flyer now?
Yeah.
Seth? Okay.
Well, so obviously we can't have it redirect two different places, but as long as on our homepage on Radnor Township's website, as long as we have a clear button, which I think we do every year, right? Okay, so yeah, we
we
should be
do.
good then. And then getting into the annual community tree giveaway. This, when we first put this together, this was in order of like spring and fall, right? Knowing that we had been doing spring and fall for the street tree, but we were kind of consolidating to fall for us, and for the Conservancy it was spring. But now knowing that, it seems like we're kind of, either doing spring or fall depending on the year. So changing that to annual. So we could, from an ordering perspective, I think it still makes sense to have the Radnor Conservancy plug here, but we can reorder depending on what we're thinking. But so the one thing that actually I just remembered was, we spoke about this last meeting, which the last year for 2020, the Conservancy did their tree giveaway in the spring, and then we did our planting in the fall. I think there was some planning around that as to making sure we didn't, step on each other's toes. But now this year, just making sure we're cognizant of, if we want to do the fall planting, but then if also the Conservancy is doing their tree giveaway in the fall, just making sure both parties understand that, and we kind of at least communicate and coordinate a little bit there.
Yep.
And then the street tree planting, again, just making it short and sweet and simple. And then we end off with, more information for maintaining, for our invasive plants list, knowing that it's more than just plants, right? Trees, bamboo, everything else. So that's it in a nutshell. I did get pricing from Mainline Print, and also just to do a sanity check across the board. So locally, Mainline Print, the number to send out, so there's roughly 10,000 homes knowing that there's more residents than 10,000, but there's 10,000 residential homes that we can send this thing to. So it would be color, trifold, sending to those 10,000 residents, and it comes out to be around $5,000. And that's on par with what we could expect from a cost perspective. I mean, at the end of the day, that's about 50 cents, per one of these delivered, right? Which is fairly reasonable. But that also is, $5,000 is a big number, especially with a diminished budget. So we'll have to think about that one.
Bulk rate mailing too then, Seth? Do they mail it for us as well?
Yep, that's mailed.
Okay,
So that's printed, that's folded, that's addressed, and that's mailed, which is fairly reasonable.
yeah, I think that's very good
So,
price.
I think this would certainly be a blanket effect, which we haven't done previously. Not everyone is on social media. We can only capture so much attention there. So I do think this would, check off a lot of boxes, which would be good. But, if we're going to do this, we just need to make sure as a group, we kind of read through this a few times before we send it out, kind of thing.
Seth, did you happen to ask them, I mean, I love these color pictures, but again, in the interest of budget, you know how the Conservancy's newsletter comes out and it's sort of like 2 shades of green or something. One's like a darker color of green and the typeset is maybe black or something. I mean, as opposed to being full color pictures like this, is there some way maybe to make these pictures
I
like,
did get quotes on that, and the cost for black and white was obviously not significantly less, but less. But honestly, it's, we're talking maybe a couple $100 savings.
oh, okay, not worth it then.
Yeah, exactly.
So Seth, I've had your February 3rd, 2020 version of this next to my computer for the last year, and I refer to it often. So I think this is fabulous. Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, I agree. I think this goes on a lot of refrigerators.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing is, would there be other applications of this in addition to the mailing? Like, could we give this to realtors?
Yeah, 100%.
That sort of communications.
Yeah, I mean, we could, this is 8.5 by 11, so it's a PDF. We can email it, have Claire email around to realtors. I'm sure we could find many other people to send it around to. We could have Molly post this on social media, even though it's not, it's 8.5 by 11 size, so it's not the best for a post per se. But what we could have her do is kind of like each one of these sections post individually, if you will. So I think it definitely has a lot of different use cases.
I mean, what would folks think about, I know I said before about maybe we should get this out before we send the postcard, but if we're going to send this if our mailing for donations is mainly geared towards businesses and developers, what would you think of using this information piece and just putting it at the bottom? Maybe we don't need the Conservancy section included in here if it's going out for donations. Include on the bottom just if you'd like to donate to the Shade Tree Commission.
That's a great idea, Jenny.
That postcard information.
Yeah, we could put donations welcome. Visit radnortrees.com.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think we would need to figure out the specifics of how we accept donations.
Yeah, we need to know.
That's true.
I've got a personal account.
Here's a bank account number.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about the donation thing because the township's technically not like a 501c3 or something like that. So that I don't know how that would work. You guys
Right.
should definitely work
Yeah.
that through.
We need to get that.
Yeah, we're gonna talk to John Rice about it.
But I think that was a good idea, Jenny.
Okay.
Can I just comment? I love this. I think this is fabulous. I think it'd be super helpful if you guys can get it to realtors. I can't tell you how many, residents, I mean, you guys know, they come to us because they're, they've cut down trees and they didn't know. And I have constituents that happens to. So I think that would be incredible to have something that people are, continue to put things in front of them as awareness. The word, I think it's great. The word commission at the top is, you need another S. That's the only, I just see like that type of.
Yeah.
Another S.
I should throw
When
this
you-
through a spell check is what
When
you're
you
saying?
look at it through so many times, like everything starts to look right, right?
Thank you. Yep.
Lisa, they're just trying to save money.
That one S will save money. But I think it's fantastic. And like I said, I really try to talk up the work of the Shade Tree Commission. I walk through the neighborhood, just in my own neighborhood, and people come up and run, someone's cutting down a tree. What's happening? Did they talk to Shade Tree? So, I mean, you guys, I think this is great. I love it. You guys are the best. I think you're the best.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa.
I don't want to show my age or anything, but do we have welcome wagons in Wayne?
I don't think so.
I
No.
don't think so.
No.
Anymore.
That would be nice though, right?
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
nice. But
yeah.
What would be great is if the township, when somebody moves in, you've got some sort of welcome package from the township.
Yeah.
The other thing, I wanted to just let so the township, we're going to be launching a new website. I'm not sure when the exact launch is going to be. I know we're going to see kind of a draft of the new website. We have a whole new platform, and that's going to be coming out. So just watch that and coordinate your redirect with Molly
Yep.
On that, because I think everything is going to flip to a whole new platform.
Yep, that's fine. Luckily, this radnortrees.com, I can change it to whatever we need to, and this can stay the same. So
Yep.
all set.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
super.
that's great. So hopefully you'll have, even it's supposed to be, enhanced and easier for people to navigate and all of that. So you guys will have a nice new page on
I
that.
love
as
it.
well.
I love it.
Great.
All right.
Okay, so next steps for this, I'll send this back out. Let's all take another glance at it. And then, Eileen, once we get the budget numbers firmed up, we can kind of take a vote on this. And then, Lisa, what we need to do is get this in front of the board for approval. Okay. And then
No,
this.
I mean, I guess as an FYI, do we need to approve this?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Seth, what
Yeah.
makes you say that?
I just know that we've had conversations in the past where if we are planning on sending out a flyer to everyone, that we need the board's blessing. But I don't know. I mean,
so Seth, I never got blessing for the
Oh,
tr-
yeah, we
well,
do it every
trees.
year. No,
okay. I mean,
I
as
think
long
we're
as
good.
we confirm that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just you confirm it with Bill and Steve, from the township. I don't think so. I mean, I think definitely as an FYI, I think it's good for the board to know before they get in the mail. They're like, oh, what's this? So,
Right.
but yeah, I don't think we have to approve it.
Okay. And then the other, just kind of my mental note is, I'll just one last time before we, print this and send it out, I'll reach out to the Radnor Conservancy too and just give them a heads up
definitely.
and get one final blessing from them too. Okay, great. And then just knowing that, so this flyers, we'll say little brother will be, I started to put together, but it's not ready for review yet, a contractor flyer, if you will. And I had compiled a list of all of the tree services that do work in Radnor. It probably needs to be revised and revisited, but that would only be a couple hundred mailings if we were to consider doing that. It would be the same format, like an 8.5 by 11 trifold, and that would probably be just maybe $100 or so to get that out to all the contractors. So news to come on that too.
Seth, I'll follow up with Claire because I know that intern for the Conservancy started that whole realtor awareness program that Claire was coordinating on. So I will reach out and see what's going on with that. And I think if we got manager names and emails from the various real estate offices in Radnor, we could just email those managers a flyer.
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately,
Very
most of those
different
realtors are
right.
going to be Radnor residents, right? So they'll be getting this flyer too, which is great.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about for them
To
to
distribute.
give to new people as they move
Right.
in, clients that they're
Right.
working with.
And we could even have Molly do a specific post for realtors saying, hey, are you a realtor? Here's this PDF flyer or something. I don't know.
Okay. And then one other idea, Seth, when you talk to the Conservancy, Laura or Gretchen, if you could ask them, would they consider enclosing this in their own flyer, like their own newsletter?
Right. Yeah, I did. So I did try and take the angle for, there's with some of the bills that are sent out, tax bills and the other bills, trying to figure out if we could kind of hop on the mail train with those things. But it seemed to be somewhat of a dead end. But that's a good point. I can see if my only pause to that would be, since the Shade Tree Commission is a government entity, having someone like the Conservancy send out something on, not necessarily on our behalf, but along with, so I don't know if that would be a good option for us.
Yeah, and I guess we'd even have to decide how effective would it be? Because if you're already getting a newsletter in the mail, you have all this to read. Would you therefore maybe miss our flyer because it's just too much to read?
Right, and having too many things in one package, if you will, would kind of dilute each other's messaging.
Exactly. Okay.
Maybe they would just put a mention in the newsletter and direct people to the site, to your site, and then people can, it's easy enough to type it in and they could go.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a
check
good
it out
idea.
that way.
Yeah,
Maybe
when I
they-
speak to
yeah,
them,
or-
I'll in kind of in trade for giving them some publicity.
Exactly.
We'll see if if there's anything upcoming that would make sense to have our group mentioned.
Okay.
And-
Well,
I-
I know. Go ahead, Lisa.
I was just gonna say, if you make sure you also send, when you're done, and send a PDF to all the commissioners, to put in, so many of them have their own newsletters, to
Right.
push it out through there. And yeah, if it's done before April 10th, send me a PDF, because I have a creek cleanup that I'm doing, and I'll put it out, so people can pick it up and
Yeah, that would be
start to
great.
spread the word out.
I think
I'll print
April
it.
10th, we have a couple months. I think a couple months. We have 1 month. I think we could make that happen. Jeez, it's March 16th already.
I know. Hey, and then one item, guys, about the donations, we said we would have to talk to John Rice. John Hosback, is that something you want to do? Or if you give me his information, I'm happy to do it.
I can give them a shout.
Oh, good. Perfect. Okay.
Yep, I'll just copy you on everything that I send home.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So,
Can I say one thing?
of course,
I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer or anything, but is there any way we could get these flyers done on, and I don't know what they're planned to be printed on, but 5,000 flyers it might be only 1 or 2 trees, but maybe do something that they're printed on recycled material or something like that.
You know what? I'll
great
Excellent.
idea.
It does seem like a lot of, I would get it, I would read it, but I would probably throw it out again, I think. And I'm sure 1,000 people would probably keep it up on their fridge, but
Mhm.
there might be other people that, I would lose it actually.
that's a good call, James. I'll see what our options are.
Mhm.
We'll print it on paper made from hazardous trees.
There you go, Frank, I love it.
I like it. Does Ashwood make good paper? I don't know.
2-ply, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so hey, just to wrap up this issue, kind of put a bow on it. I just want to say, really nice job, Seth. This is something that we have targeted as a goal now for probably since at least 2018,
In a little while.
maybe 20. And the whole idea was we wanted to lead with education, help new homeowners understand that we exist. We're here to help. And we wanted to help residents, help us re-green by knowing, hey, we give away trees, and advertise the same for the Conservancy. So I think this really gets us there.
Yeah, my pleasure, and the hard work of everyone on the team here. And I think it's taken us a while too to define what our most important outreaches, and to boil all this information down into a 1-pager. It takes
Right.
more time than you realize. So I'm
Yeah,
glad we're on the right track with this.
Yeah, yeah. And even when I say it was on our goal list back maybe in 2018, it was before you even joined as a member. It was just, hey, we were thinking, how can we better work with the residents
Right.
via a more proactive type of approach? So, yeah. I think it's
Well,
great that
happy to
we're
help.
finally
I like
there.
it. Yep, same.
Okay, super. Guys, that is our last item. Because of course, we're going to meet again tomorrow night.
Exactly.
Woohoo. Anything before we close the meeting, Lisa?
I just wanted to say one thing. So, I don't get out much because of COVID, as all of us, but I had the opportunity to be going through the parking lot in Wayne, where you couldn't go through because we had the tent there for so long. And last weekend, driving through there, you guys, I was blown away by all the trees. I was so excited. I said to my husband, I'm like, look at all the trees, look at the trees, because I hadn't seen them planted, and it looks fantastic. How amazing are they going to be when they get? I mean, they look great right now, and they don't have any leaves on them. But as they get bigger, and
Yep.
you've taken that desolate parking lot that just looks so desolate, and it is such an enhancement. Like, what a great job! Really, so impressed.
I feel
Really
the same
wonderful
way.
job.
Walking around, it's like I can't wait for spring.
Mhm.
When finally all these trees start like blooming and we can, kind of reap the benefits of everything that we just planted. So
Yeah, there and on the trail, all the trees you planted along the trail. I think, Frank,
Yeah.
those were the ones that we got donated.
Yeah.
It all looks fantastic. So you guys, you are definitely leaving your mark. Plus, you're like such a nice group. I love coming to these meetings. I'm sorry I was late, but you're such a nice group, and everyone's so friendly, and it's like you're
That's
so
great.
congenial. And I love to listen to the back and forth between James and John. So it's
I agree. I feel like we need to, at the end of the year, just, since all of these are on YouTube, just put together maybe the best clips of the Shade Tree Commission and have a highlight reel. That's how we can raise money. We can sell it.
You go, buddy. So,
but really great job.
yeah, let's
Thanks,
end on
Lisa.
that
Thank
happy note.
Well, and thanks for all your support too, Lisa. I know,
Absolutely.
Thank you,
you do a
Lisa.
great job
Great
at,
input for us.
being our partner. So appreciate it.
Yeah, I
We
agree.
love
Lisa.
you.
I'm
Thanks so
not quite
much.
sure how you make all these meetings.
Yeah.
You have a whole docket on your
I
calendar,
know.
Commissioner. So,
Like, it's so easy on Zoom, right? It's so easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Great commissioner right there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You guys are
Coming
great.
from the opposite party too. Commissioner Malky.
That's where we end the call.
And from a constituent, So,
Okay.
Exactly.
See you all tomorrow night.
Enjoy.
Feel free.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Have a good
bye,
night.
everyone.
See
Bye-bye.
ya.
Okay.
They-